Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to recommend some enemies to lovers romances. I, just like a lot of other people, really love this trope. I love the enemies to lovers, hate to love romances. I love the angst that creates, and I really love how it brings couples together. So I have one contemporary romance to share with you, two dark romances, two paranormal romances, three fantasy romances, one alien romance, and one historical romance. What I also really love about this trope is that it's very varied. It can occur in every type of romance genre, so that is great. Let's start with the contemporary romances. The one, the only, Twisted Hate by Anna Huang. This is the ultimate hate to love romance, the ultimate enemies to lovers. Basically, you follow Josh and Jules, and this is a best friend's brother romance. Basically, Josh hates Jules because he thinks that she's not good for his sister. She constantly gets her into trouble. He just doesn't like her, and she hates the fact that he's judging her, that he doesn't know her at all. And then one day, so they really cannot stand each other. And then they end up working together. He's a doctor, she's a lawyer, but she's an intern at the hospital in their like law department. So they work together. While working together and being more around each other, they decide that it's a good idea for them to be enemies with benefits, basically just hate fucking each other and get it out their systems. They do find each other attractive, so they just think, it's easy to just have sex with each other because we know that we're never gonna have feelings for each other. And this is just so great. This is one of my favorites in the Twisted series. I really loved Josh and Jules. I loved them in the previous books. So I was so glad to finally get their book, and this is so good. I really want to reread this book. And what I do really love is that there's a good part in here where they have sex with each other and they still don't like each other. I love that. I just think that is like a great way to have this hate to love, like actually be physical while still hating each other. Of course, I do want them to eventually love each other, and I think she did that perfectly in this book. If you've not read this for some reason, I would highly recommend this one. Now for the dark romances. The first one is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This is the first book in her Brutal Birthright series. This is the one that starts it all. Basically, it brings these families together. You follow Callum and Ada, and Callum is the heir to the Griffin mafia family. It's the Irish mob, and Ada is the only daughter in the Gallo family, the Italian mob in Chicago. And Ada and her brothers crash the Griffin's party, and she accidentally burns his office. So he goes after them and he actually breaks her brother's leg or knee. So their fathers, trying to prevent an all-out war, decide that they should get married to each other and they have to agree. But they despise each other. In fact, she tries to kill him on their wedding day. She knows he's allergic to, you guessed it, strawberries. So she decides to eat a bunch of strawberries. And then when he has to kiss her, he nearly dies. And he ends up almost drowning her, and their first sex scene is so hot but so filled with hate too. Like, once again, just like with Twisted Hate, even though these two are married to each other, they have to consummate this marriage, they still hate each other. And there's a big chunk in this book where they actively don't like each other. And like I said, I love those kinds of books. Like, I like how they're forced together in forced proximity, but they still don't like each other. In this book, there's great banter, and it's just like great. I really love this series, and this book is definitely one of my favorites, most especially because these two are very much enemies for a big part of this book. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. Okay, so this is a dark romance because there are some horrifying things happening to these characters. Basically, you follow Cora and Dean, and Dean is Cora's sister's fiance, and they hate each other. They don't like each other at all. They constantly play pranks on each other. They just don't get along. But then one day they both get kidnapped, and this kidnapper forces him to have sex with her. And while going through this harrowing experience, they are the only ones that they can rely on. And then once they come back to their regular lives, obviously they have changed, and the only one that knows what they have been through is like the other person. So that's how they slowly fall in love. The hate part in here is everything you read before they get kidnapped together. But it's like, it's clear both of them are very good people, so it's not that serious, like their hate part. Obviously, everything that they go through is very heartbreaking. I did definitely enjoy this book, and yeah, it's definitely a hate to love romance. Now for the two paranormal romances. The first one is Dark Sky. This is the 14th book in the Immortals After Dark series, and you follow Thronos and Lanthe. And this is actually a childhood friends to enemies to lovers. So when they were younger, they were very close, like they were very good friends. He always knew that she was his mate, but then something horrible happened. He betrayed her unknowingly, and because of that, her parents were brutally murdered. So her power is that she can compel people to do things and they have to listen. And in this world, you become immortal, but there's a bit, like you get locked in your immortality once you're the strongest you could ever be. So that is usually around when somebody's in their mid-20s. And he's like this angel type character, and she is a sorceress. So she compels him to fly off the roof without using his wings. So he falls and he doesn't die, but he's pretty much, his body is broken because he's not locked into his immortality yet. He has to live with that pain for the rest of his life. Like, even once he's locked into his immortality, those wounds never heal. Since she's also his fated mate, he's been going after her for centuries, and she's been running away from him for centuries, until one day he does catch her and they have to confront everything that happened in their past, and they do eventually fall in love. This was interesting to me because I could see from both perspectives why they hated the other one, and I could see from both perspectives why they should be forgiven. I really love this book. I know some people, it's not their favorites, but it's definitely one of mine in this series. I just felt so sorry for especially Thronos, like, my poor baby. Like, I cannot even imagine what he's been through all those years, and I just really love that romance in the end. Yeah, I really love this book, and I would highly recommend it. Technically, you should read every single book that came before it, but I think out of all of them, you could read this one without having read the other ones, but I would still highly recommend all the other ones because the Immortals After Dark series is such a great series, and you will definitely not regret it. The other paranormal romance is Mating the Huntress by Talia Hibbert. So this is enemies to lovers because you literally follow a werewolf and a werewolf huntress. This is a novella, but basically she realizes that he's a werewolf and she wants to kill him, but he knows that she's his fated mate, and he's just very intrigued by her. So she kidnaps him and she wants to kill him, but eventually they do fall in love. This is mainly enemies because their species are enemies. Like, basically she's literally a werewolf hunter and he's literally a werewolf. That is where the enemies comes in. It's not necessarily that they hate each other personally. It's mainly because it's her mission to kill a werewolf and he's a werewolf. I really enjoyed this book. I really love Talia Hibbert. I am sad because this was supposed to be a series of these types of romances and she never continued on. I really enjoyed this book. I was thoroughly entertained. And I really love the fact that she thought that she was actually going to kill him, and it was his mission in life to make sure that she was going to fall in love with him. So what they wanted was at like complete odds with each other, but I did love how they ultimately came together, and this was just a great, fun, quick time. Now for the 3 fantasy romances. The first one is, of course, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Everybody already knows what Fourth Wing is about. It's about this girl who has to become this rider, this dragon rider, even though physically she's not that strong, so it's very difficult for her to become one. And Zayden, whose father was part of this rebellion that her mother squashed brutally. So when she gets to this academy, she thinks that he's gonna kill her, and he doesn't really like her. There's things going on that she could be a liability for. They are forced together because of their dragons. I really love this, and it's clear that it's mainly on her part that they're enemies, because it becomes clear that he doesn't really care about her that much in the beginning, but when they do finally come together, it is explosive. I loved every single scene with them from the very beginning. I thought she did a great job with them, and I just was intrigued by them, and especially by him. And yeah, they're definitely enemies in the beginning, mainly because of their parents and everything that happened in the past. The Bridge Kingdom by Daniel L. Jensen. This follows Lara and Aaron. And Lara is part of this kingdom that wants to infiltrate the Bridge Kingdom. And basically, her father wants one of his daughters to marry the king of the Bridge Kingdom and then kill him. So she goes and is basically a spy for her kingdom, and she wants to kill him. So it's definitely enemies to lovers. Like she has one mission, and it's to destroy him and his kingdom. But when she gets there, she realizes that maybe she's been lied to, and she really falls in love with the kingdom, its people, and its king. And this is such a great series. I really love it. It is so good. And the ending and what's happening in the second book is so good as well. They may or may not hate each other again in the second book. It's so good. I really loved it. And I could definitely understand why she hated him, and it's all because of the lies that her father told. This is so good. If you're looking for a great fantasy romance, this one you should definitely not be sleeping on, because this is an amazing fantasy romance in my opinion. I really loved both Aaron and Lara, and it was so great. I really loved it. And the last one is Manacled by Senlin Yu, of course. Draymini is peak hate to love, peak enemies to lovers. It is so good. I always love Draymini stories because he really does hate her simply because of what she is. And obviously she hates him for his prejudice against her. In this world, the pureblood wizards all get a muggle-born witch for them to just impregnate them, because the pureblood wizards and witches cannot really have any babies. So Hermione gets given to Draco, and basically he has to rape her. And obviously she hates him. She thinks he hates her too. He doesn't really treat her all that he is either indifferent to her or just mocks her. And this story is told in the present, and then there's a big chunk of flashbacks, and then it goes to the present again. And the flashbacks give you a lot of answers as to what's going on with them. And this was so good. This was so good. Like, I could definitely see, like, they are at two completely different sides of this war. Them falling in love was just so beautiful, and it was such a hard-earned HEA. It's such a great story. If you've not read this book yet, I would highly recommend it. This book was a lot of people's favorite book of this year and last year, and I can definitely see why. It's a fan fiction, but it's, in my opinion, better written than a lot of traditionally published books. It was so good. If you've not read this one yet, I would highly recommend. And you don't have to have read the Harry Potter books to enjoy this one, but it's so good. It's such a beautiful book. The one alien romance is Toxic Desire by Robin Lovett. And this is interesting because this follows a human and an alien, and basically in this world, they are at war with each other. Basically, humans have conquered a lot of alien worlds, and the humans have killed a lot of this guy's family. These two actually get, like, there's this fight between them in space, and then they crash land on this planet. But this planet is a planet full of aphrodisiacs, so you actually have to have sex with somebody, because if you don't, you're in great pain. So even though they despise each other and they hate each other, or at least he hates her, she is intrigued by him because she's not like other humans. She really just wants to study a different alien species. She has no interest in killing them, but he despises humans and he despises her. But they need each other to not be in pain, so they are forced to have sex with each other because of this planet, and then ultimately they do fall in love, and she is actually his mate, so that is great. I really love this book. It was so entertaining to me, and it was ridiculous at points, but I just thoroughly enjoyed myself while reading this book. And last but not least is the one historical romance, and it's Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. So this follows Bennett Sharp, who's a pirate, and a pirate hunter named Ashley Cutler. So Bennett is actually married. She's on the run from her husband who betrayed her. And then she gets captured by this pirate hunter, and he wants to just see her hanged, basically. So his mission in life is to bring her back to England so that she can hang. But since she's the only female pirate on this spaceship, on this ship, And he knows that if he puts her in the jail with all the other ones, she'll get brutally raped. And he doesn't want that. Even though he does want to see her get killed, he doesn't want her to be raped. So she has to stay at his captain's quarters. And she thinks that she can seduce him into living. So she uses her feminine wiles to get him to fall in love with her. And he does end up having sex with her, but he thinks that, like, there's a big part in here where they're having sex and he's still dead set on her being hanged in the end. Eventually they do fall in love and it's so good. Like, I really love this book. I loved Ashley, even though he's definitely a dark hero. This is a dark historical romance, by the way. Even though there's like some things that are very dark about him, I did thoroughly enjoy myself. It was such a good book. And yeah, I did love the hate to love, because like these are enemies, like a pirate and a pirate hunter. Like they are completely at odds with each other. He's part of the aristocracy and he's prim and proper, and she's this wild pirate. And I really, really love this book. If you've not read this one, I would highly recommend it. But like I said, it is a dark romance. Dark things actually happen between them, but also some dark things happen because of other people to her. It was so good. I really, really loved it. And yeah, these are my recommendations for enemies to lovers books. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were. And I'd also really love to know some of your hate to love or enemies to lovers recommendations, because I'm always on the lookout for those. I already did another video recommending hate to love romances. So if you want more recommendations for enemies to lovers or hate to love, definitely check that video out. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know by leaving a like if you did. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.